everyone, LE Diecast, and this video I've been working on actually behind the scenes for a while, and I'm sure it doesn't show up in our high quality production standards, but usually what I do with these videos is we get a lot of cars that come through, and I put the cars away in kind of ideas for videos, and then when enough of the cars pile up, or if the story about those cars gets interesting enough, then we do the video. And so at all times I have piles of these potential video boxes of cars around me. This one I'm very excited about, and this was two different lots that I bought at two separate times. And the first lot I didn't feel like there was enough to bother with a video, but these are old Lesney cars, and for those of you that really collect the old timey ones, these are the old timey ones. This is the days of the dinosaurs, basically, for diecast collectors. So if you're collecting the main lines or treasure hunts, or maybe that's just your thing and that's all you do, this is where all that came from, was back in the Lesney Corgi era of cars. And this goes all the way back to the 60s, very early 60s, actually. And these are in pretty good shape. They're played with, obviously, but it's hard to find these in good shape. Back behind us there are some of my cars that I had when I was a kid. I'm too young to have had these when I was a kid. They were given to me by my uncle, and so my Matchbox Lesney cars always held a place of honor in my collection, and I still have almost all of them, but those guys in the back row are here to welcome the newbies aboard here. So first off, we've got a DAF tipper truck. This one still works. Oops, well, he does work if I get him working there. And it's hard to see, but these trucks have kind of like a plastic system that is meant to keep this tipper working. So you can see he's working pretty good. Just noticed his pin is missing there. Just noticed it. But there you go. So the DAF tipper truck. This one, my price guide doesn't go back far enough for this one. I know there was a 5-spoke version of this, and this is the one that was before it. This was issued in 1970, so it's not quite as old as some of them that we got there. But it might have come with a roof at one point. I think it came with like a plastic covering on the top. Next up, we've got a pair of these cranes, and I think there's one of these in the next lot that just didn't get separated in here, so we may see another one of these. The interesting thing about these is both of these have their little plastic hook, which is very hard to find these without the plastic hook. And I've got more information when we see the part 2 with this guy, but the first one I found didn't have the plastic hook to it, and the crane was a little wobbly. These are just in fantastic condition, and they've been played with, obviously, but they really are just like little works of art. These things are just fantastic. Funny enough, my price guide lists this as between $250 and $350, and I'm pretty sure that was a typo. I think it's supposed to be $25 and $35 brand new. That would be about normal for these. I don't think they're worth hundreds. Not quite yet. So this is give you the real name. It's a wheel crane, and it's number 30. And while I'm loading the next ones here, I'll tell you about the numbering. The old Lesney cars are actually really easy to identify because Matchbox put out 75. I think it was originally 72, and then 75 was added later. You don't need to see my notes, you need to see the cars. They put out 75 cars, and so all the original Lesney cars are numbered 1 through 75. Now the originals go all the way back to about the early 60s. So when you get up into the 70s, a few of the models have actually changed numbers, and so they would be listed as, say, Matchbox. What number is this? Here, I'll tell you. This might be listed, of course I grabbed one that has a weird number. This is number 26. So maybe this is the original 26. If so, it would be 26A. If this is the second 26 that Matchbox issued, it would be 26B. And they go way up into like pretty high letters because once they get into the 80s and 90s, they were issuing lots of cars. But at any given time, Matchbox would have basically 75 cars that they were making. They weren't always the same 75, but when you get back into these early Lesney cars, it's pretty easy to track them because most of them are the A model. So like 1A, 2A, 3A, the first Lesney models. So this is the GMC tipper truck. And these wheels, by the way, are called Spyro wheels. Those guys. And a lot of the old Lesneys have those wheels. These are the precursor to the superfast cars, but the superfast cars at the point when this one was issued are still probably about 8-9 years away, if that gives you some sort of kind of reference. Both of these tip back. They're in real good shape. They have their little swing doors back there, which that often is broken off. And the front cabs open up, if I can get it open. Isn't that cool? With the little engine underneath it. So these things were as kind of plain looking as they might seem on the outside. They had lots of articulation. Also, a few things, if you're trying to buy these, a lot of times it's hard to tell if they had other parts, like this swing door, because they're held together with pins. And if the pin is missing, or broken off in this case, you may not know that this car had other parts to it. And there are variations on these, although there are not a lot of variations. There are variations that you can collect, and I don't really know enough about them to tell you too much about the variations. So I'm sure some of the guys that jump on there and know these things, they will have listed some stuff down below by the time you're reading this. This is a tipper truck. Whoops, that was a clamp that just fell. This guy still will hold his position. He's got that kind of rubberized little gasket down there. This guy obviously used to have a back on him. He does not have that anymore. Red with the orange. 8 wheels on this. One of the wheels, the front wheel, is fused right now, and I can fix that. I just have not fixed it. It's got, I think that's just plaster, and it just needs to be chipped off here. I'll show you if I can get it off. The way that you want to get this stuff off is not necessarily to pull it, but to just file off the gunk. Because sometimes the metal's pretty weak, and if you go to just pulling it, you're going to break the car. And I'll show you another thing once I've chipped this off here. Something interesting about that. It's a little bit better. It does roll now, but that axle is bent. And bent axles, strangely enough, very, very rare on these. These axles are not, those are not Hot Wheel axles. Those are solid steel axles. And they do not bend easy. You practically got to run these things over with a car to bend the axles. So usually bent axles are not your problem with the old Lesneys. Next up is a Dodge dump truck. This guy is number, I'll tell you. He's got the silver base for the collectors out there. He is number 48, I believe. And this might have been a B version. I don't remember. Either that one was too old for my price guide or it was a B version, but I had trouble pricing this one. By the way, brand new, if you find these in the packages, and they're really brand new, they are not overly expensive. They certainly don't compete with the red lines, and the red lines for the most part came out after these. These are pre-red line era cars. This is called a Sight Hut truck. He's number 60. Real common to find it like that. One of the more common ones. Not so common to find it like that. And the reason is this plastic, that is the old Timey plastic, and it gets very, very brittle. If this is in the sun, it will just disintegrate. And they make plastic much different now than they used to, and very hard to find that guy with his house. Like I was saying, they run somewhere brand new in perfect condition. They run about, depends on the model, but somewhere between probably about $15 and $30. Here are some, I think this is the pipe truck, or is this the girder truck? This is the pipe truck. I'll tell you in a second. This is the pipe truck. Want to see the girder truck? That's the girder truck. White one came with girders. Red one came with pipes, at least originally. And I'm kicking myself because I could have bought pipes for this guy. At the last show, somebody was selling little bundles of the original pipes for these for $3 each for the whole little bundle. And I could have bought them. And I was stupid and didn't. I thought I was going to come back and get them later, and then I forgot. And now I don't remember what vendor it is to contact them. So anyways, if anybody's got the little pipes for these trucks, let me know. This guy's in played with condition. This guy, he is really in good shape. And that is as good a shape as I can find these when they're not in their original packaging. And by the way, I don't buy them in the original packaging. Partially because of the price. I just don't want to pay that much. But partially because I like the played with ones. I know that's weird. Some of you understand. But with these older cars, I really like the idea that some kid played with it. As Andrew says, they were very loved. I just like the history of them. They mean a little bit more to me when I get these cars that are in pretty good shape but have been played with. This is the Mercedes truck. He is number 1. Matchbox number 1. It's like a little piece of archaeology there. I think this one, again, goes back further than my price guide. My price guide cut off at, I believe, 64 or something. And I know this one came in an olive body. I've seen it. This is not the olive body, and I am assuming that this one is a little bit older. But it would have a plastic canopy back here. It's like a cargo truck, like a military cargo truck, and it would have a plastic canopy. It's lost its plastic canopy, obviously. So next up, we've got, what is this guy? This guy is the Ford Grit Spreader. You can see I've got one in the background there. This is about the 3rd or 4th one that I've picked up. This one's pretty common. And I think it's common because it's one of the more durable ones. The little grit spreader is welded on or glued on with something that holds up for 100 years. Mine has the spiral wheels. I think my older one does too. Yeah, my older one has spiral wheels too. And my guide did not go back that fast. I've not found a good guide online for Matchbox, by the way. So I use books, and most of my books just cut off right after these guys were issued, or right before these guys were issued. So you can see he's got some issues with his windshield. He has been played with, but really in pretty good shape. I think that's it. Do we have one more? Here we do. Oh, I know. Yeah, here we go. I knew there was another one. All right, these guys. Another one of the more common ones. Real common to find this one without his little cement mixer. This is plastic. It does turn. You can't really see it. They do turn, and it sits on a little piece back here, and that little piece tends to get bent. But this was one that must have been one of the more popular models. But, interesting piece about this, the gray spiral wheels, which go back to the early 60s, there was a precursor to those, and that is the gray spiral wheels. This is one I had when I was a kid, but I wanted to show you those gray wheels. And the gray wheels, there's another one. The gray wheels, for the most part, go back even earlier. So if we were digging out there in the dirt for these guys would be buried down the deepest. I've got about four more of these little cement trucks. They're pretty common. So Here you go. Here's another one. Just happened to be laying here with them. I think this was mine when I was a kid because it's all bleached out. So we're going to have a part 2 of this. I'll make it right after this one. But I did want to share these with you. The little Lesney cars, not necessarily exactly what I collect. I collect the super fast cars, and the Matchbox cars from the 90s are really my big collection. But I will snag these little Lesney cars anytime I can. They bring back good memories from when I was a kid. But we'll be back in the next video, and we'll continue right off where we left off here. Be back in a little bit.